When I was like 10 or 11 years old in Prunedale, one of my church friends asked me to come and have a sleepover at her house. I was happy with the invitation. She wasn't one of my favorite church friends from Prunedale, but she was my age. I think it was maybe the second sleepover with her at her house. We were playing in her room with the collection of dolls that I had brought over, and she stopped me and said, "You see that light?" She pointed to the ceiling light. I said, "Yes." She said, "There's a camera in it." I looked at her shocked. She said, "Yeah, and they're looking at you, and they're gonna rape you." I freaked out. I started running to the bedroom door and grabbed the doorknob and struggled to try to open it. She was in the background laughing. She said, laughing, "I'm just kidding. No, don't go. There isn't a camera in the light. I was just kidding." I didn't know what to do. I was scared to death. I think I made it through the rest of the night there, and there was no more mention of rape or cameras, but I never went to her house for a sleepover again. I don't think I ever told anybody about it either, but I think that was my first experience with the feeling of fear. Some Christmases that I didn't get to go see my dad in LA, we would go to my stepdad's parents' house. For many years, it was so exciting for me and my sisters because we would all get spoiled rotten, even though my two older sisters and I weren't my stepdad's kids. It seemed as if there was enough love and presents to go around, but the Christmas when I was 12 years old was all of a sudden not the same. First of all, it was just me and my younger sister. My two older sisters were not there. It seemed just like every other Christmas until we got to the gift exchange. It was the tradition that we would all sit in a circle and open presents one at a time. Normally there was a pretty even exchange of presents, especially among the kids, but this time it got to the end and it was quite obvious that my little sister had way more presents than me. I was 12 years old, so I almost couldn't understand it. I thought maybe there was a mistake. But there was one present that my sister got from my Aunt Mary. She was my stepdad's father's sister. She gave both me and my sister a present that, when wrapped, looked exactly the same. They were both rectangular in shape, about an inch thick. My sister opened her present first, and it was a jewelry box. Inside the jewelry box was a folded up $100 bill. I was like, okay, let me open mine next. So I opened my gift from Aunt Mary, and to my complete and utter disappointment, it was a brand spanking new blank VHS tape, still in the plastic. I don't know if I was very good at hiding my heartbreak. I couldn't understand for 1 second why my Aunt Mary would so blatantly diss me like that. I was only 12 years old. I also couldn't understand why no one was recognizing this. Was I the only one who could see that they were treating me different? Why were they treating me different? Oh, it must be because I wasn't their real granddaughter. What? Really? All of a sudden this makes a difference? How come no one told me? This is how you're going to tell me at Christmas when I'm 12? By the imbalanced exchange of gifts? I was crushed. I couldn't hide it. I was choking back tears so hard. I wanted to be grateful for what I had received and not jealous that my sister had received more stuff, and obviously more valuable stuff. My mother played it off in front of them by making me take a picture in my new robe with a fake smile and obvious tears in my eyes. I was supposed to show them no disappointment. I had no right to be disappointed because this was not my family. Just pretend it's not a big deal. Even though these are the people I grew up with, one of my first memories was wandering around the property I grew up on in Prunedale, California, Reese Circle. I was always by myself. At the tender young age of 4, after my mom married into their family, my mom was pregnant with my sister, and she was so tired all of the time, she would just send me out to walk around the eucalyptus trees. I would wander over to whom I knew was my great-grandma Namo's house. It was a big house. It was old, and it had a 3-car garage and a white picket fence. My great-grandma Namo and her family were one of the first settlers in Prunedale. Apparently they owned hundreds of acres. I didn't know this when I would go over there, not yet. I was only 4. but I would go over there and marvel at her home. It was so big. It was a Victorian style. My great-grandma Namo lived there, and her daughter Mary lived there. Mary, my grandfather's sister. My step-grandfather's sister. So I would go and visit them. It never occurred to me that they wouldn't want me over there. My grandma Namo never made me feel like I was unwanted. In fact, when she died the next year, I was 5. I had truly thought that I had lost my best friend. I thought, why did she have to die? Now, who am I going to go visit when my mom tells me to go away? I immediately felt the loss. She was the only friend I felt I had. My mother didn't even talk to me the way she did. I was so upset one day I told my mom that I was going to run away. At the age of 5, I packed a suitcase and I left the house. I went into the barn that was located between my grandma Namo's house and the trailer that my mom and stepdad lived in. And I waited. I spied on my mom and waited to see if she was going to come after me. I'm thinking to myself, does she even care? Would she even miss me if I wasn't there? She never came. She never showed any sadness or even showed that she was worried about me. I eventually had to give up because I knew I wasn't going to be able to officially run away and truly find out if my mom cared at all about me. But the investigation that I did gave me enough information to know that I had lost my best friend when my great-grandma Namo passed away. There was no one since her from her family that was anything like her. As for my Aunt Mary, she met a very gruesome demise a few years after this infamous Christmas. Apparently, she was an alcoholic, and after my great-grandma Namo died, she proceeded to sell all of the hundreds of acres that my stepdad's family owned, for who knows how long, with the exception of 10 acres that my stepdad and grandfather inherited that we were already living on. Unfortunately, that included the beautiful big house that my great-grandma Namo raised her children and grandchildren in. And she spent all the money on alcohol and ended up burning herself alive in an apartment in Salinas, California, by passing out stone cold drunk with a lit cigarette in her hand and lighting her apartment on fire with her inside, unable to survive because she was too drunk to respond. That's all I have to say about that.